Have you ever walked through a modern supermarket and noticed something genuinely weird? You pass endless rows of chicken, massive walls of beef, coolers overflowing with pork, and occasionally some lamb, but where on earth is the rabbit? Have you ever wondered why? Is it because it doesn't taste good? Not enough protein? Or maybe you think it's just too hard to find? Well, everything you're guessing right now is completely wrong. The real answer is surprisingly simple, yet almost nobody thinks about it. On paper, a single rabbit doe is an absolute superstar. She produces dozens of offspring every year, and each kit reaches market weight in just a few short weeks. Her remarkably low-fat content makes her healthier than a heavy cow, chowing down on thousands of pounds of expensive grain. She converts simple feed into delicious edible meat at a rate that shatters every agricultural efficiency data chart. So why on earth did we banish this super animal from our modern kitchens? Grab a drink, wrap yourself in an animal skin, and let's travel back 3,000 years to see where it all went wrong. Back in the days of the Roman Empire, they looked at this animal and saw a biological miracle. They built stone-walled enclosures called leporaria to farm them, creating an endless supply of peasant food and soldier rations. Later, medieval French monasteries cranked this up to an industrial scale. Why? Because the Catholic Church banned red meat during Lent. But some clever monks decided newborn rabbits were basically fish. A brilliant, absurd loophole that solidified this animal in the European diet for centuries. It was fast to breed, incredibly cheap to feed, and seemingly unstoppable as a food source. But nature is cruel, and this perfect machine had a hidden self-destruct button. We call it a metabolic trap. Wild rabbit meat is shockingly lean, carrying barely any fat content. It is almost pure protein. And here is exactly where human biology completely ruins the party. Your liver has a hard ceiling on protein metabolism, maxing out at roughly 40% of your total caloric intake. If you eat nothing but this ultra-lean edible meat, your overworked liver cannot convert those amino acids into energy fast enough. Toxic ammonia floods your bloodstream. You can stuff your stomach until it physically hurts, but without fat, your body literally digests itself. You are full, yet dying. That is rabbit starvation, as if poisoning its predators was not enough. This creature suffers from a ridiculously fragile prey animal physiology. Its cardiovascular system is wired for pure panic. A sudden loud noise, a flash of lightning, or just the stressful environment of modern factory farming can send it into immediate cardiac arrest. Imagine trying to build a massive, highly efficient industry around an animal that drops dead just because it heard a loud tractor. Pigs endure confinement. A cow simply chews its grain. But the rabbit, its heart just stops. The stress kills it. Biology said no. If dropping dead from a thunderstorm wasn't bad enough, putting them in dense crowds creates a breeding ground for nasty diseases like pasteurellosis and coccidiosis. But the real horror show started in Australia in 1859. Someone released 24 of them. By the 1920s, that tiny group exploded into 10 billion hungry mouths, stripping away every ounce of feed and grain across the continent. To stop this ecological apocalypse, the government unleashed a literal biological weapon. First came the myxoma virus, killing 99.8% of the infected animals. Then came RHDV, a virus so vicious it causes them to drop dead mid-stride. These fast-mutating plagues made commercial farming an uninsurable gamble. You cannot build a secure business when one mosquito can wipe out your entire stock in 48 hours. Even if you survive the viruses, you hit a massive economic lock-in. The modern processing infrastructure of the capitalist world is a ruthless machine optimized for scale. Giants like Tyson Foods process millions of birds, with machinery dialed in for standard sizes. This massive system is built exclusively for chicken, for beef, for pork, and occasionally lamb. But our long-eared friend, its delicate carcass breaks in those machines. It requires manual skinning. The math just doesn't work. The system was rigged. But the final fatal blow wasn't economic. It was a complete cultural transformation. Post-WY, the pet industry exploded. Scientists call it baby schema, those big round eyes and soft features that hijack human parenting instincts. Media giants capitalized on this. We grew up watching Bambi and reading about Peter. Suddenly, this animal wasn't viewed as edible meat or an incredible source of protein and healthy fat content. It moved from a backyard hutch to the living room sofa. A single rabbit doe could still produce 50 offspring, reaching market weight in weeks, crushing the efficiency data of a heavy cow. But it no longer mattered. You won't find them in the supermarket because we stopped seeing them as food. The bunny officially became a family pet. While the average Western supermarket is dominated by beef, trays of chicken, cuts of pork, and premium lamb, the world tells a vastly different story. France and Spain, home of Roman Liporaria, still see this creature as dinner, proving that being fast to breed and remarkably cheap to feed never went out of style. They bypassed the cultural transformation artificially fueled by baby schema and the emotional manipulation of the pet industry. In China, it is happily consumed without anyone stressing over the metabolic trap found in pure protein metabolism. They fear no toxic ammonia buildup or the historical nightmare of rabbit starvation. The difference is purely in our heads. Today, our escalating climate crisis demands immediate sustainability, yet we remain incredibly stubborn. Raising a cow requires massive tracts of land and endless grain, fueling devastating greenhouse gas emissions, and heavily accelerating dangerous methane emissions. The efficiency data shows a single rabbit doe pushing her tiny offspring to a profitable market weight produces zero methane emissions, which drastically lowers our greenhouse gas emissions and actually answers our sustainability prayers during this ongoing climate crisis. But unfortunately, we are hopelessly trapped by a massive economic lock-in. Exactly like the wildly inefficient QWERTY keyboard we still type on every day. Our rigid processing infrastructure, currently controlled by monolithic giants like Tyson Foods, is just another permanent QWERTY keyboard that physically cannot adapt. We abandoned this marvel because we feared its fragile prey animal biology suffering a sudden cardiac arrest. We were terrified of dense farms breeding pasteurellosis or rampant coccidiosis. And we watched the myxoma virus and the vicious RHDV act like a rogue biological weapon overseas. We simply surrendered. This animal has been waiting patiently in a quiet wooden hutch for 2,000 years. It is an absolute masterpiece of evolutionary design, perfectly equipped to feed us as natural resources collapse. But our modern civilization, deeply blinded by stubborn habits and silly cartoons, is simply not ready to accept it.